Alright, today we are replacing the alternator in the 97 F-250 with the 5.8 liter gasoline engine. You can see I've already disconnected the battery. There's the alternator. That'll work. Alright, battery's disconnected. You're going to need a 15 millimeter wrench or socket to release the belt tensioner. So release your belt, pull off the pulley, there it goes, and then unplug your one small wire and your one larger plug. You might need a little pick or something to get that to release, because it has this little tab you have to pry out away from the body of the plug to get it over a little locking clip deal. So once your two plugs are undone, it's really easy to just unbolt the alternator. It's 13 millimeter. These flex handle ratchets make this a whole lot easier. It's still kind of a tight fit, but I can get a lot more swing being able to move the handle of the ratchet out of the way than I would be able to otherwise. And there we go. Alright, so here we are. We've got the old alternator out. You can see the new one sitting here, and this is kind of the point of this video. We're upgrading from the 95 amp alternator that came on this truck to a 130 amp alternator that was not available on this truck, but is a direct plug and play operation. The 92 through 97 F-Series pickups and Broncos and this cab style vehicle, the largest alternator you could get was a 95 amp. Not only did my 95 amp give out, but also if you've seen my plowing videos, especially the one at night, you can see when I'm running the plow, this thing really does need a little more help. The lights are getting dim and it's struggling a bit. So we're going to 130 amp. So I wanted something factory if I could get it. And that brings us to this thing. You can see right here on the tag, this is a 130 amp alternator. This is Napa part number. There's a part number right there. It says without pulley, but you can see it's got the same pulley on it. And if you have the 93 through 97 pickup, Bronco, whatever, this thing just bolts right in. You want to order, or if you're going to a junkyard, you want to find an alternator for either a 1993 through 1996 E-Series van with a V8 engine, or you want to buy the alternator for a 97 through 2003 E-Series van of any size with a V6, or a 97 through 03 V6 F-150. And make sure if they ask you, you want to buy the one that's either the high output option or for the air conditioner. Because when they're looking this up in the computer, if you're buying it from a parts store, they're going to give you the option for air conditioning or no air conditioning. You want to take the air conditioning option, because that would put a heavier load on the electrical system and necessitate the bigger alternator. So that's what you want to buy. On some of these, there is a concern back here at the back. You may have to remove this, and this screw and rotate this back housing to get everything to line up the way it needs to. But it looks like, for my truck, this thing is already clocked exactly like it needs to be. Now, credit where credit is due. FullSizeBronco.com has got an excellent article on this, and I will link to it down in the description. They have lots and lots and lots of really good information on doing this. They call it a 3G alternator swap. All right, YouTube, we're back out here doing our alternator upgrade. I pulled the alternator back out just for access. This is the plug that plugs into the side of your alternator. This plugs into the little terminal down there by itself. And then this wire, it's like a 10 gauge, maybe a little bigger, maybe an 8 gauge. This is your actual charging wire that bolts onto the back of the alternator, onto that stud. When you go to a higher output alternator, you want to replace that with a heavy duty cable. I ran some 4 gauge cable, and I came over here. I'm going to end up with all that in split loom, but this is just so you can see it real quick. I came over here. It goes to a 150 amp circuit breaker here on the fender. You could use a fuse. I opted for a circuit breaker just in case anything happens. I can reset it real easily. I don't have to mess with replacing fuses. Then we come off there and go right over here to the solenoid where the factory charging cable would have ended up. All this is fine and good and real simple, but if you do this, you've got to do one more thing or your alternator is not going to charge. Down here in this 3-wire plug, these are your exciter wires that tell the alternator it needs to charge. Now you can see the middle one is just a real short one. It's just a little loop. It comes from this big plug right here, and it loops down and it plugs into this little plug right here. That's all that middle wire does. Now, one of these wires is hot with the key on. That wire is fed through the battery light indicator on your dash. And with the key on, you should have battery voltage on that wire. The other wire is hot 100% of the time from the battery. And that specific wire is the reason your truck is not going to charge if you just replace that cable with one you made up. Let me show you here. I got the meter so I can demonstrate. All right, we can see here I am in the far left plug. It is the green wire with the red tracer. I kind of had to peel the wire loom back so you could see the wire, but this is the green wire with the red tracer. This is from the key switch, and you can see we've got 11.7 volts on that wire. My battery's pretty low. The middle wire we don't have to test. We know where it goes. And this wire on the right is this white, yellow looking wire here. That wire should have power from the battery at all times. And as you can see, we're on the plug and we don't have power. The reason for that is because somewhere in this harness, down in that wire loom, it goes over here between on my truck, I got the plow pump and the battery in the way, and my canister's relocated, but somewhere in that little harness, there is a fusible link, a 12 gauge fusible link that can fail. You are taking the place of that fusible link by installing a fuse or a circuit breaker of your own, rated for somewhere in the 150, 175 amps. But the other important fact is this white yellow wire splices into your main charging cable that goes to the battery, so it's hot all the time. So if you take this and you just disconnect that factory charging cable, that big one, and run a new one, this yellow wire is not going to have power. So what you need to do is come in here and come back a little way, give yourself enough room, but cut this wire off and put a connector on it and run it down to the battery post on your alternator. Let me get that done and I'll show you what it looks like finished. Here we are with the alternator, and I'm trying to get a shot down here so you can see the wiring that you're going to have to change. But it's this little yellowish white wire right here. It goes up and it goes, move that vacuum line out of the way. With the connector plugged in on the alternator, it is the bottom wire. And all you want to do is come back a few inches, pull it out of the harness, and cut it off where it's long enough to loop down there to the charging post, and then put a ring terminal on it and put it right on the charging post with your main battery cable. And that'll supply power to it to excite the alternator and tell the alternator it needs to start charging when the engine is running. And you can see I'm going to run all this in wire loom. I just haven't had time to do it yet, but there's our big cable, comes over behind the plow pump, here to our 150 amp circuit breaker, and then over here to our solenoid. So there you have it. That is the parts store 130 amp bolt-on upgrade. I'll put links to all these parts down in the description so they're easy to find. If you have any questions, any comments, be sure to post that down below in the comments. I hope you found this useful. Be sure to hit subscribe. I got a lot more truck stuff and ranch stuff coming up in the near future. So thanks for watching.